If you haven't seen Captain Marvel, maybe you shouldn't watch this, unless you don't give a shit, in which case, welcome, let's talk spoilers. And as always, this isn't a play-by-play of the entire movie, just gonna talk about a few more things I couldn't talk about in my review, because that's spoiler-free. So the movie starts out with this stealth mission in which the Kree are hunting these Skrulls. There's a group of civilians, and they're like, are these Skrulls? We don't know. Skrulls can shapeshift. And this one dude was like, they're not hostile, they're just civilians looking to settle down. Turns out they are Skrulls, and he was right, because the Skrulls, I guess, are good guys. Which I did like that flip. I like a story that takes, all right, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, and you find out the bad guys are actually good, and the supposed good guys are actually the superpower dicks. I like that. It can show good and evil or just perspectives, and it can also show histories written by the victors, or at the very least, the powerful. Obviously, the Kree are more powerful than the Skrulls. They have more technology at their disposal, at least. They have a planet. But other than that flip, the movie didn't delve deeper into that. All you know is they don't like them, and it turns out, oh, the they that didn't like them, they're actually the bad guys, and the them are actually the persecuted. All right, so now we're on their side, and Ben Mendelsohn's good. I didn't find out the history that the Kree wrote about the Skrulls. I didn't find out what the Skrulls supposedly had done that made them so bad. Like the Skrulls and the Kree, they hate each other. Why? Though with the flip of Ben Mendelsohn being good, there is then the other flip that Jude Law is bad. He was supposedly Marvel. Turns out Marvel's Annette Bening? Wouldn't have called that, but okay, you turned Marvel into an old lady. Which comic book fans have been griping about that kind of stuff for years. Comic book movies or TV shows, there's always a super powerful character they just tone down to this just average person. And generally people are like, what? Why? That's not them. I don't know enough about Marvel to give a shit, so okay, Annette Bening's Marvel. And Jude Law is a dick who found Carol Danvers, who soaked up a bunch of energy. Come to think of it, I don't know how she soaked up all that energy. What made her soak up that energy? I missed something, didn't I? To my recollection, it doesn't actually tell why she soaks up that energy. But then, all right, Jude Law gives her his Vulcan blood, now she has green blood. She will be none the wiser that she's a human being. Which when they called her Veers, I was like, oh, Vers, Dan Vers, okay, so they're gonna find half of her dog tag. Yep, that's what happened. And all this technology happened because the Tesseract is in play, which is case in point of what makes this movie float when it floats. When I saw the Tesseract, I was like, oh, the Tesseract, cool. You got me, movie. That worked. Because that nostalgia hit me. I was like, oh shit, the Tesseract's been around since phase 1. I do have questions, and I feel like we're hitting retcon territory because how? Story was, Howard Stark found the Tesseract when he was looking for Captain America. Doesn't actually say when that happened or what year that happened, but apparently Howard Stark got that thing, gave it to Marvel, who's Annette Bening, for some reason, did, in which she made a light speed drive piece of tech. Well, they left that large chunk of the story out when they were telling the story in phase 1. Not that it doesn't fit, but for it to fit, people just have to have forgotten about it or just didn't mention it. Which, okay, addressing the fact that this movie is a feminist movie. Like, that's what Brie Larson said it was. Undeniably it is. If anyone was like, that movie has a feminist agenda, I'd be like, yeah, because it totally does. You see it in the movie and you've heard it from the people who made it. But you still have to make the movie good. You can't have bad out-of-place comedy in a thinly written comedy and expect people to say the movie's good. You can't have choppy action sequences in a thinly written action movie and expect the audience to accept it as a good action movie. These things are flavor sprinkled into movies, but they don't make for good movies. That's the same with a message in a movie. Having a movie with a message and having a movie that flows are not the same. Like, she has this scene where she's totally kicking ass while the song Just a Girl by No Doubt's playing. I get what they were going for, but it kind of comes across as some 99-cent Guardians of the Galaxy action piece. It kind of makes you go, oh, okay, you're not Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, I said in my spoiler-free review there was something that was dumb. And the dumb thing is, absolutely, a lot of people called it in the comment section how Nick Fury loses his eye. Come on, man. What? It was like a joke on the internet when he was like, oh, little kitty. People were like, oh, but the cat scratches his eye out, But from what I can see, people didn't actually think that would happen. But it did. Holds up the cat just scratches his eye out. I was like, no, it's not, he didn't scratch his eye out. But no, at the end, he's like looking at glass eyes, and Coulson's like, you have a big decision to make. So I guess he lost his eye. So in Captain America the Winter Soldier, when he said, last time I trusted somebody, I lost an eye, what he meant was, trust me, I'm a fucking dog person. That changes the entire context. I hate it, and nothing can undo it. Unless we find out after Captain Marvel, he didn't actually lose his eye. But until then, whenever he flips his eye patch up in Captain America the Winter Soldier, and he's like, you have to keep both eyes open, I'm just gonna be like, oh man, the cat did that. That's from a cat. The other thing people hated that I didn't even notice, well, I noticed that he changes the name from this, I forgot, initiative to Avengers Initiative after he sees this picture of Carol Danvers in front of her jet. And I noticed it was zooming into it, and then he was like, huh, and he erases the name for the initiative, and there's all dun, 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 and it cuts to black. I was like, all right, so something in there said Avengers, but I just didn't see it. So help me out. Was it her plane? I don't know. But something in that picture made him change it to Avengers Initiative. For me, it's not dumber than the cat scratching out the eye. Inspiration for names, that comes from anywhere. You'd be baffled at how people come up with names, and when you find out, you'll be like, that's how you, There are actually more than a few retcons, if not contradictions, when you line this movie up with pre-existing MCU lore. Like, doesn't Black Widow in the Avengers tell Hawkeye this is gods and Loki and magic and nothing we were ever prepared for? Well, I guess that makes Nick Fury kind of a dick, doesn't it? He's known about that kind of shit for a long time now. Granted, he didn't know about Loki or the demigod beings of Asgard, but he certainly did learn in the 90s that there are super powerful beings out there in the universe, and if he got the idea then to put together a team like the Avengers because they might be coming back, then yeah, I would imagine part of the training would be like, okay, there are extraterrestrials out there and they're really powerful. This is part of your training, so why weren't they better prepared in the Avengers? Why was Black Widow just completely in the dark in the Avengers? She's like, we weren't prepared for this, we weren't trained for this. It's either bad writing or Nick Fury is just a really neglectful leader. I'm gonna go with that first one. Like in the original Avengers, they were all like, why are you using the Tesseract to make WMDs, Nick Fury? And he points at Thor, he's like, because of him, we learned not only were we not alone, but we're hopelessly, hilariously outgunned. But that's not the case. He learned that in the 90s. He should have been like, it was before you were in the game. Like the Kree, Skrulls, a glowing lady. There's stuff you haven't seen. Contradictions like that in a movie like Captain Marvel makes it feel like this movie was written and directed by people who don't know the MCU. So people have also asked, or at least they said they wanted me to address in my spoiler-free review, if there is something that leads into Endgame. Like, do you need to watch this movie in order to understand Endgame? Don't know, I haven't seen Endgame. I would say no, unless the Skrulls come back for some odd reason. Even then, there is a post-credit scene when, like, the little pager that Nick Fury used to page Captain Marvel and then he disintegrated. The Avengers have that, and they're looking at the death toll and Earth rack up, and they're like, holy shit, I've had nightmares better than this. And they're like, oh, the pager stopped doing its thing. Captain Marvel's like right there, and she's like, where's Fury? But do you need to watch it? I feel like that scene's going to be in Endgame anyway. Kind of like, I believe it was Ant-Man, the post-credit scene in Ant-Man's when Bucky has his arm in the vice, and that's in Civil War. But that was a post-credit scene that ended up being in Civil War anyway. Next one's the cat vomits up the Tesseract. Okay. And well, the credit to the cat, it's not actually a cat. It's an alien posing as a cat. It has tentacles that eat people and apparently the Tesseract. But even, all right, let's address the cat. I heard the cat was like this scene stealer, like the cat made the movie. I watched the movie and I was like, I mean, the cat was the cat. Maybe it's because I am a dog person. Vanessa's cats haven't been here long enough. But the cat didn't steal the show. I mean, when he ate a couple people, I thought that was cool. But it's not like I walked out of there going, the fucking cat, man. It's not like the cat talks. It's not like the cat was Frank the dog from Men in Black. If the cat stole the movie for you, what does that say about any other characters in the movie? In the end, I will say, I know the plan. I saw Kevin Feige this interview where he was like, Captain Marvel is going to head up the Avengers apparently after Endgame. That's the plan. I don't agree with that plan because that is cheap. That just cheapens everything. If you want a strong woman to head up the Avengers, great. Have at it, Black Widow. You should have gotten your own movie before Captain Marvel. But if Captain Marvel swoops in, wipes out Thanos, then runs the Avengers, I don't see how she deserves it. I don't see how she has earned that. Like, it worked for James T. Kirk to go from cadet to captain because we all knew James T. Kirk was the captain of the Enterprise. So it didn't feel cheap. It just felt like, all right, that's the fastest way to do it. If that happens with Captain Marvel, it'll feel like, imagine you work for a company. You have the main manager, the boss, and the assistant managers, then, you know, the low-level employees. Let's say the main manager goes away, retires, quits, whatever. Naturally, the assistant managers would be like, all right, which one of us steps up because we've put in the time? Now imagine this company hires one of the low levels right up to being the boss after working there for about a month. Yeah, employees and managers would be pretty pissed about it. And I would understand, and that's what that would feel like if Captain Marvel just swoops in and runs the show. So that's that. Those are the spoilers, the things I couldn't talk about in my spoiler-free review. All right, so Captain Marvel, have you seen it? What did you think about it? Or what's your favorite strong female character in a movie? Bring on the Ripley and Sarah Connor comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.